Once upon a time, a young woman named Charlie. She was young, curious, romantic, intelligent, and greedy. The things she loved the most were books, the color red, wolves, and her mother. She grew up far away from the last family she had left and became veterinary. For some reason, Charlie always had an ability to communicate with animals. This ability made her the youngest and the best veterinary of her generation. Despite this success, Charlie was feeling sad and empty. All the time she had spent away from her beloved mother, without news of her to succeed in her career, and her studies had become unbearable for her. So she decided to return at her native village and join her mother for a few weeks. After 4 long hours of driving, Charlie had to park her car at the edge of the forest. The rest of the road was littered with tree trunks that had fallen in a storm and had not yet been cleared. Unfortunately, there was no other road Charlie could take with her car. The only solution for her was to finish the 2 kilometers remaining walking in the forest. Without hesitation, Charlie entered the forest and began to walk to her house. An hour of walk later, Charlie realized she was lost, without network to help herself with her phone. On top of that, she has encountered many dead or shredded animals. Something was wrong in this forest, and her instinct had never fooled her. But while she was looking for a way out of the forest, she did not hear the whistling of leaves behind her. A creature, half man, half wolf, leaped on her. Always focused on her goal of finding the village where she had grown up, Charlie was surprised when she was projected with foot on the ground. For a second, she was groggy. She tried to get up, but someone was lying on top of her. It was a man. He told her in silence to stop moving and talking. Charlie was stunned. What was happening? After several minutes waiting in silence, the man got up and gave a hand to Charlie to help her. She took his hand and stared at him as a flood of questions was invading her. The years had passed, but Charlie remembered her old friend Anaria. He was standing in front of her, as surprised as she was.
"Charlie, is it you? What are you doing here?"
asked her friend incredulous. Yes, it's me. I had some vacation, so I came here to see my mother. What's wrong in this forest? What happened to the world?
"Last year, a storm ripped out the tree you saw on the road, but it's better in this situation,"
he answered by looking away. What situation? What happened? Asked Charlie, bewildered.
"A couple of years ago, a laboratory settled and they began to offer to the inhabitants to pay their guinea pigs against a lot of money. Everyone rushed to their cabin, but it turned out that the laboratory was not doing legal tests. Your mother and many others turned out into some kind of animals."
Are you telling me the thing who attacked us was one of the inhabitants of our village?
"Yes, actually, it was your mother. I locked down almost all of them except her. But Charlie, they did damage, murders."
Charlie was shocked. Her mother and the other inhabitants had been transformed into monsters for experiments and she had never knew anything about it. On top of that, they had killed people and her own mother attacked her. The young woman started thinking really fast as she used to do in stressful situations, letting go what she felt. Is there a cure? She asked suddenly.
"My aunt found one."
Answered Anayo, looking away with sadness.
Why are you asking that?"
We need a plane to save my mother, she replied with more confidence. After the incident, Anayo and Charlie went to his house to take some rest. The next day, they set themselves up to catch Charlie's mother. The forest was silent, even birds are flying away. Slowly, the young woman walked where the incident occurred the day before. According to Anayo's information, her mother was attached to her smile. She needed to go somewhere she knew her mother would come again. Her friend was at some distance to her not to smooth her smile. A few meters away, Charlie heard a noise. She focused and tried not to tremble in front of the creature fighting her. Her mother was there, deep down in this monster. And if the thing had ears, it was to listen what she has to say, and maybe she could talk to her mother. Mom, do you hear me? It's me, Charlie, your daughter, do you remember? The creature looked at Charlie and started growling suspicious. The daughter moved slowly. Her power over animals was starting to affect the werewolf. "I will not hurt you, okay?" she said with emotion. "I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. I promise you, Mom. I'm back, and I will not leave you again." Tears was falling down her face. The creature did not move. It was looking at her. In those eyes, she could saw her mother's soul. After a second of hesitation, Charlie took the syringe she had hidden in her sleeve and injected the antidote. The creature took over this time and threw itself at her. The young woman screamed surprise and fell on the ground with the werewolf. Like an alert, his old friend pressed the detent of his weapon loaded with morphine. The beast vacillated and fell on the ground in a deep sleep. Hours later, Anario and Charlie tied the werewolf until the antidote began to work. Both of them were shocked, but they were fine. They were still on the ground in silence. Charlie was looking at her mother with sadness and regrets, while Anario was looking at her remembering their childhood. She had changed so much since the last time they saw each other. Of a little Red Riding Hood ready of adventure, she had become a woman with a scarlet aura ready for anything for the people she loved.